If you're a skinny guy, one of your biggest goals is to fill out a t-shirt. And I had this problem more than anybody else, and I went from a size small to a double XL completely natural. So I'll show you exactly how I did it with the 5 most important muscles that I focused on. The first is the side delts, and that might come a bit of a surprise because you might think the arms are number 1 if you're trying to fill out t-shirts. The side delts, if you look at a jacked guy, right, somebody who is jacked, what do you think of first? You might think of their chest, you might think of abs, you might think of big arms. Consciously or subconsciously, usually subconsciously, it's the shoulder to waist ratio. How broad your shoulders are up top, coming to a tight waist. So I can prove this. If you have a guy who's super muscular, like has tons of muscle mass, but has narrow shoulders and comes down to a wide waist, it ruins the proportion. And so having broad shoulders coming down to a tight waist is going to give you that jacked look. The side delts are going to be the biggest contributor to that illusion, I guess you want to call it. And so my 2 biggest exercises that I focus on to develop my side delts personally are single arm cable lateral raises. So that's when you have the cable and you're doing lateral raises like so, and dumbbell lateral raises. But I'll do something a little bit different here. I will grab the dumbbells and I will lean myself against a wall, kind of like you do a wall sit in gym class when you're in school. And so I do my lateral raises like so. The reason for this is I want to eliminate as much momentum as I possibly can. The natural tendency for people when the weight starts to get harder and the reps start to get harder is if they're standing doing lateral raises, they'll like swing their body like this, right? Trying to get the weight up to get more reps, except the side delts aren't doing any work there. And so that might be easier to get more reps, but those rep qualities are trash. And so it doesn't really matter. So for me, single arm cable lateral raise and dumbbell lateral raises without momentum. So that's either leaning against a wall, sitting in a chair, just eliminate momentum as best you can. That's the first muscle to focus on. Now, obviously, we got to focus on all the muscles because we got to grow everywhere, but these ones in particular. The second is going to be the arms in totality. And so the arms obviously made up of the triceps, the biceps, and the forearms. But I want to talk about the triceps for a second. The long head, as you may know, the long head is the head that runs over here. That makes up around 55% of your total tricep size. And so having underdeveloped long heads, guess what that means? Your triceps are going to be underdeveloped. And so you could have a super big horseshoe, and I had this originally when I was first starting lifting, but I never did any specific long head isolation work, and therefore my arms looked pretty skinny from the front for the first few years of training. So what did I do? I did overhead cable extensions for this and close grip bench press. These were the 2 exercises that helped me target my long head a lot more. I've kind of switched to JM press recently, but I'm getting acquired to that movement, so I'm not going to speak on my experience with that yet. But for me, it's been overhead cable extensions and close grip bench press. With the overhead cable extensions, once again, I will not stand up. I will sit in a chair. And I would strongly recommend that you sit on most of your exercises, especially the arm exercises. I've noticed that people will kind of rely off momentum because you can use your legs to push yourself up and get more reps. If you're planted in a chair, your feet are planted to the floor, you can't really use anything else except your arms. And therefore, it'll cause the arms to work harder. Therefore, the arms will grow more. For the biceps, 2 heads, right? Biceps bicycle, 2 heads. We have the long head and we have the short head. Now, I've noticed that I can't perfectly isolate the long head or the short head through specific exercises. They all get hit in some regard. But what I've noticed is doing curls with my elbow behind my back targets the long head a little bit more, and curls with my elbow in front of my torso does target the short head a little bit more. And so for me personally, having a cable curl like so, where my elbows stay in the same position the whole time, right? Elbows stay in the same position, and then having like a single arm dumbbell preacher curl or having like barbell preacher curls where my elbow is forced in front of me onto a pad. For me, that works really well. In the past 5 years, I've taken my arms from 10 inches to 18 with a pump naturally, just by doing like 2 bicep exercises and like 3, maybe 4 tricep exercises. But honestly, you just need like 2 or 3. And so for me, arms are going to be the second muscle to focus on. The third is going to be the upper chest. And the reason I say upper chest and not chest specifically, once again, we want to grow all muscles, but I say upper chest because when you stand from the side, if you do not have an upper chest that is well developed, you're going to look like you have man boobs. And so your chest will sag down. Somebody who has this, I don't want to call him out, but Mark Wahlberg is a pretty good example. If you look at his chest from the side, it just like drops straight down. He has a really well-developed lower and mid chest, but no upper chest. And so it gives that illusion, even though his chest is really well developed, that area is not. And so that can throw off the proportions significantly. When you're trying to fill out t-shirts, you want to have density from the front, side, and back at all angles. And so especially from the side, you're going to look paper thin if you don't have a well-developed upper chest. For me personally, I've done Smith machine incline bench press and I've done incline cable flies. This is a bit of a weird one, but you put the bench in between the cable machines. Some people don't like that because they don't like you taking up too much equipment, but oh well. you put the bench at an incline in between the cable machines, and you can hit the upper chest really well directly just by doing that. And so for me, those two have been huge. Smith machine incline and incline cable fly. For number 4, you might think this is like the back or something like that. I'd actually put the forearms in number 4 and the traps in number 5. And this is, I know, weird list. This is just from personal experience. With forearms, if you have big upper arms and then absolutely twigs for forearms, then again, it throws off the whole proportion. Now I group forearms and traps together in something that I call Wi-Fi muscles, like Wi-Fi, like the internet. If you go into somebody's house, or a building and they have Wi-Fi, you're not jumping up and down, super excited, let's have a party, they have Wi-Fi, right? It's not something to be celebrated. But when they don't have Wi-Fi, that's when you notice. And so I found that with the forearms and with the traps, these don't need to be absolutely like gargantuan massive, but if they're underdeveloped, then it can significantly throw off the look of your physique. And when it comes to filling out a t-shirt, most times, most t-shirts are going to be covering, I mean, this is really specific, but it's going to be covering most of the upper arm. And so only the forearm will be showing. If you have absolute twigs, it's not going to look, super aesthetically pleasing. Again, don't do this just to like fill out a t-shirt. Do this because you actually want to see results. I'm just giving you specific muscles to target. And so for the forearms, I've noticed that they work in 4 key ways, which is curling downwards, curling upwards, pronation, which is having your palm facing up going downwards, and then supination, which is having your palm facing downwards going up. I've built 95% of my forearm size by just grabbing a straight bar on a cable and then bringing it down, pinning my elbows to the side so my elbows aren't moving, and just doing this. The only thing that's moving in this exercise is my wrist. I'm not going like this, back and forth. It was just the wrist. For reverse, I drop the cable thing all the way to the bottom, and then I grab the bar, elbows stay pinned. That's it. That was it. And so I haven't measured my forearms in a while, but I could put up 2 pictures of what it looks like back then and what it looks like now. They've grown a good deal. And so just off those 2 exercises, that was enough. Finally, for the traps, this is really simple. I recently started training my neck directly, so I will give an update on what that looks like a few months down the road. But for the traps, I found my traps grow really quickly, and for most guys, they will grow very quickly. Something about the androgen response, I don't know the entire scientific literature behind it. And so with the traps, I only found one exercise that works super, super well every time. And that is barbell shrugs, but putting the bar behind your back. Because I see so many guys doing shrugs with dumbbells at the sides, which is fine, or barbells at the front. And so what happens is the traps are a back muscle. And so the traps will best be activated when the movement pattern is not stretched out in front, right? Stretched out in front like this, right? Having the bar out here is not going to be nearly as effective as having the bar behind you and actually working the traps from the back side. You're going to feel it a lot more if you bring the weight down and shrug the shoulders forward like so. You're going to feel your traps a lot. So those are my top 5 muscles.